Welcome to the demonstration of the Savant Container Tracking Module. In this demo, we're going to talk about how you can combine multiple POs into one container that's coming in from overseas and various line items from those POs so that you can receive them in a more efficient manner when the container actually shows up. So here we've got purchase orders. I've got at least one here where it's got several different items. This is a purchase order that's in an open status coming from the Acumatica ERP side, and we've got various items. So that is going to be one of the POs we're going to look at. I also have another one here, 405. Similarly, it has various line items on it, and we're going to use some of those as well. And then there's a third one that we'll also deal with. So to get started with the process, we'll go into our container inquiry dashboard, and we'll take a look at creating a new container. So we'll start here. My container number is the first thing we have to enter, and that's going to come from the shipping information. What date did it ship? So this is the date when it is on the water. We'll go ahead and choose 7/15. You can put in a seal number if you want to. You can note the shipper. We can also note when the container arrives at the dock, and this would be at the port in the United States. So go ahead and fill that in. Just use the same thing here. You can also note when it arrived at the warehouse, which might be a few days later. And other things like when customs comes and opens up the container for inspection, you can note when it was emptied, the pickup date and time. You can calculate number of free days. Those kinds of things can be handled as well. And you can also put in the vessel and the voyage. I'm just going to use what I've already got here. And the waybill number, and then the ship ID can be anything, but I just usually use the same as the container. Okay, so now we've got all that filled in. We come back here and hit save. And now we're ready to continue on with what's actually on this container. So you've got a couple of choices here. We can come in and just start manually adding them to this detail, but that can be somewhat tedious if you have multiple items, multiple POs being considered. So the easier way is to do a file import. And that's what I've got going on here. So we've got a file out here. It's just a CSV where I've got the container ID, the various item numbers that are on that container, what PO it came off of, quantity, and the line item on that PO. This can be exported out of your data in Acumatica as long as you use the right columns, all as well. All right, so we're going to take this file and we are going to import it. We'll choose that and then click on import. Tells us it imported it successfully. And now when we open this up, we've got line items. And you can see from this, I've got 5 individual lines, same item number multiple times, 3 different POs. So this is all the data that's necessary for us to be able to receive against this container. All right, so now that it's out here, we can go back and take a look at our inquiries. And there's one thing that's new and different, and that is the container ID is now on the purchase order inquiry because it's a type of receipt. It's got a different type code, being a container rather than a PO. And it's got all those line items the same way here as on the other screen. All right. So that's about it for the admin side. Once these containers are built, then we just wait for the product to show up in that container, and then we move on to our handheld device. So here we've got the handheld, and we're going to go through and do some receiving. And we'll go ahead and hit receiving. It's going to ask me to log in. All right, so now we can put in a reference ID here if we'd like to. Not necessary. Again, we go with our container ID that we want to receive against. We then choose a printer. In this, there's lots of different printers depending on what you have in the warehouse. I'm going to go with my receiving to printer, and we will continue. The next thing it's going to ask for is, where do you want to receive this to? There's a default that's always in configuration for a default receiving location. Just like for a PO, it could be the same as your regular POs. It could be something different. You can have your dock doors all defined. It just depends on what you want to do. You can also override this at the time of receipt, but I'm going to go ahead and keep it. And now we've got an opportunity to scan an item that we're receiving, or we can choose from the drop-down list, and it's going to give us what was on that PO. I'm going to go ahead and receive the first item, and this one, it's wanting a quantity of 4. We'll go ahead and receive that. We can print individual unit labels if we want to. This is purely optional. So if I wanted to get some quantity of UPC or other G10 or other type of barcode label for this, I could do that. I would just check mark this and say how many labels I want. Or if I leave it blank, it won't print any individual labels. All right, so we'll go ahead and accept that. Now the system has generated a license plate, and in this case, it's given it a number 100212, and that will come out on the printer. We can continue with our receiving, go on to the next item, and you see that last one we did is no longer on the list. We'll go ahead and receive this, quantity 9, same routine. And as we're continuing with this process, we can see that for the container, it's coming in and showing us quantities received. Here's my 4 and my 9. And then I've still got some that are not yet received. So that's happening, automatically behind the scenes, updating that PO on that container, on our side. And we'll just keep on going here and continue with receiving. Now, because I've got this split out multiple POs, I do have to receive them individually. So we'll just go ahead and hit that 3, 3, and 3. All right, and when I'm finished with everything, it will come back and tell me it's fully received. The system can also give you a listing of what was missed in case you think you're finished, and then you wanted to see a list of anything remaining. You can get that as an option as well. All right, so we'll go ahead and exit out. Now we can show that this particular container is closed. Everything was received in full. That's all good. And the next thing we need to deal with is looking at those POs one more time, the regular POs. Because what happens is we automatically go back with the references to the different PO numbers, and we tag those as being received. So you can see here with our first PO 237, we have some quantities that are now received for these 3 different items that were on that first PO. Likewise, the other 2 POs have their individual lines handled as well. So here we've only got 1, I think. Yeah, just this one here. So all of that gets split out. And then what happens is when that container gets closed, all of those individual PO receipts get created in Acumatica and updated purchase order by purchase order. So that's the process. And this is the standard way to do container tracking. We do have a second option that I will not show right now, but I'll just mention it. And that is if you've got the IIG container tracking module, we can let you create the PO using that module in Acumatica. You pull in all the PO lines as normal, and save that. That will come into the Savant side. It will populate the container tracking dashboard without having to do a file import. It just populates it through the integration from Acumatica. And then it's the same information here that you would see. You'd receive it the same way. And then at the end, we would send back that purchase receipt to the, using the IIG methodology for doing that. And then you would be able to receive those individual POs based on that transaction. Either way, you end up with, the information that you're looking for, and a lot less work for the guys in the warehouse to have to go do everything twice. Thank you very much for listening to our demo today.